And we do encourage you to keep your videos on if you're comfortable with that kind of thing, but your microphone's off so we don't get any cross chatter or interruptions there. We will have a question and answer session at the end of our presentation tonight. So what I would like for you all to do is, as you think of your questions, please put them in the chat at the bottom of your screen. That way you don't forget what your question is and we don't forget to answer them. We will address those at the end of our presentation tonight. In addition, we are also going to invite you to participate in a survey. It's a very short survey that we would like you to participate in. That feedback is crucial to us so that we can keep making sure that you get the best experience possible from the Los Angeles Center of Photography. So I'm going to put that in the chat right now, and then I'll also put it again at the very end. That way everybody has a chance to fill that out. So that's it. Now, not this month, but last month was our membership month officially, but any month is a good month to join. If you are a member, thank you for being a member. If you are not a member, I would encourage you to join and take advantage of all of those benefits that membership gives to you from the Los Angeles Center of Photography. And then above and beyond that, our host tonight is going to be Janice McGavin from the Los Angeles Center of Photography. Hi, Janice.
Hi, Jason. Thank you so much. Everyone, welcome to the Say What You Want Artist Talk. I am Janice. I'm one of the employees here at LACP. We have a few other LACP staff, so let me introduce everybody. We have Jason, obviously, who's our producer or / facility manager. We have the amazing Kevin Weinstein, our manager of education.
Hi, everybody.
We have Sarah Hadley, director of marketing extraordinaire.
Thanks, Jess.
Brandon Gannon, who is our director of operations and director of education. Brandon, you waving? Yeah, there he is. All right. And obviously, Julia Dean, our executive director, is over here. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We would like to, introduce ourselves. So before we get into the talk, I want to talk about something really exciting that's happening at LACP. Save the date, because October 24th, join us for our 5th annual fundraising gala. It is an online virtual experience from 5 p.m. to 6:30. We're a nonprofit, and we do lots of free events such as this. And one way we can keep these events going is if you come along to our fundraising gala. So I'm actually going to put the link in the chat, because guess what? You can buy tickets. What? Crazy. Another thing, this is a free event, so we do have a donation button on our website. So, if you have $5 or $10 spare or $1 million, you can donate that to us. It's a tax deduction too. Yes. We have webinars every Saturday, and we also have a grant writing workshop this Saturday with the amazing Linda Vallejo. It's this Saturday and Sunday, so do check out our website for that. All right, without further ado, let me introduce our amazing moderator. He's here on my left. I don't know which square he is on your screen, but he's here on my screen. The amazing Sean Theodore. Okay, he's an award-winning photographer, all right? His work really it's a broad, open conversation regarding the role of photographers in shaping the of agency and imagery. He engages in new forms of storytelling and the impacts of trajectory of the collective Black consciousness. He's got a BA from Temple University. He's in the MFA photographic program at the Savannah College of Art and Design. What up? That's a great school. Yeah. Okay, his work has been on shows at different galleries, art fairs, different institutions. He's basically on every single publication under the sun. His work has been seen for Apple, Showtime Networks, Paper Magazine, the New York Magazine, Smithsonian, The Atlantic, the New York Times, basically everything. Everything, Sean. You've been on everything. So we are so honored to have him here today. Thank you, Sean. Take it away.
All right. Well, thank you for an amazing intro. I don't even know what else to say about myself other than that. I'm a Libra, if that counts for anything. I'm left-handed. And I'm really glad to be here yet again. Last week, I had a fantastic talk with some amazing colleagues. And this week, nothing's different. It's literally some of the best people on the planet doing the work that I absolutely love talking about, art and photography. Literally, we've been talking before this started, so I hope that that same energy that we've had carries over into this discussion. But I want to thank LACP for having all of us and to giving us this great opportunity to say what we want to say. And I do encourage our guests tonight to say it like we feel it, or as they say from where we're from, say it from your chest. Right on. Okay. So without further ado, who would like to be up? I think we're going with Frank first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind going first. So LACP and everyone, thank you for having me.
Oh, wait, Frank, let me give you a better introduction than that. Because that, come on, man, come on.
No, it's cool. You know,
This is a baton that must be passed forward. You know what I mean? So let me just start off by saying Frank's work is amazing. Frank sits in between two very important places, fine art, okay, and commercial photography. The things that I've seen him do, I'm jealous in the best possible way. He is an amazingly wonderful man. I've gotten to get to know him just in one conversation. I feel like I've known him for years, but the amount of energy and love that he's pouring into his work is just phenomenal. And I'm really proud to present to you Frank Francis. There we go. That's an intro. That's an intro.
Who is Frank? Who is Frank now? All right, hold on. I'm going to share the screen. So I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully I can do this well. Can everyone see that?
Looking good.
Okay, I'm going to switch to full screen mode now. I think it paused me 1 second. I'm going to try again here. There we are. Okay,
good.
All right, so I'm presenting tonight a project called Remember the South. And Remember the South is essentially a letter to my son Marley. When he was born, you know, I came to realize like I had a whole host of biases and things about where I'm from, which is South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina. And I was like, okay, how do I, you know, be able to teach my son sort of who I am, without, you know, me sort of trying to, you know, pass on my own biases to him, but also sort of like allow him the room to know who I am visually, and also to have his own conclusion as to who I am, and also who he can be through those experiences. And so the South for me, you know, unfortunately, up until sort of he was born, which is 4 years ago, like I had a very sort of strange point of view. And, you know, the work here is all inspired by sort of like things that sort of started around sort of slavery, like cotton, or like, in my opinion, soul food and the African mask. But I also shoot a ton of commercial work, whereas I'm always in prop houses in the city, which is New York City. And, you know, I see things for rent, or like, you know, they'll, you know, sometimes the editor or a producer will say, hey, let's get something ethnic. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? You know, and sometimes, you know, it would be like an African mask. And I'm like, what? All right, cool. Or like there'll be cotton in sort of like spaces that didn't really make sense, right? You know, so for me, it's all about how do we use these elements in sort of like this commercial world, but had sort of this very potent beginning and meaning. And that's what this body of work is about, is me sort of like going through all these sort of like motions of really collectively, you know, reshaping how I thought about sort of like racism, how I thought about the South, how I thought about the Confederate flag or cotton or soul food or watermelon, you know, and like just coming up, like, you know, I always felt the way about eating chicken and watermelon in front of, I'm gonna just say it, you know, white people. And like for me, like I could never really get around sort of like, what the hell did that mean, you know, coming from the South? And I'm like, why did I even have these biases? And so, you know, when Marley was born, I was like, hey, how do I say this to him? And I'm like, this is crazy. So I had to make it work. I had to make work around all these, many identities that I've had over the years. And this piece is what we call Hunted. And I made it in 2020 after sort of Ahmaud Arbery, shooting. And, while I was sort of like in my sort of room and making work, Marley comes in and was like, Papa, why are you emotional? Which I was crying. And I was like, oh man, how do I explain this? So this piece, Marley and I, we actually made together hand in hand. And I was like, each stripe for me, like the red, the white representing our flag. And then sort of like the black behind it is a black identity. It has no gender at all. But then the blue, like, is the blue about the flag or is the blue about law enforcement? But again, like, this is very sort of like strange, fine line that we as sort of like Black people have to walk. So each of these, and this particular piece means a lot to me because, it was me explaining this to my 4-year-old son about like, in some ways, you may or may not have to walk through this experience. And I'm like, I hope you don't. But the work is to say that we have had this conversation and it's called Hunted because again, like I think that, we can watch the news any day now and understand that the Black body itself is hunted in some way, which is sort of strange in our country. And then here is sort of like my ode to sort of watermelons and sort of making it, and also collard greens. So, taking it back to soul food. And as a still life form, how does, I'm shooting still life, so they mean something very different and I can approach it in a very different way, which to me is more approachable than approaching a person with this particular subject matter. I think that someone like Terrell, when you see your work, you'll be able to tell the experience in a very different way. But for me, like just thinking about sort of like how food is in the culture and what watermelon means to me, and there's sort of this really strange sort of like push and pull. And then this is the African mask on top of Kool-Aid. And as a kid, like drink tons of Kool-Aid. I remember, Piggly Wiggly used to have, sugar on sale, 1 pound. You can get 5 bags for $5. Or we can get sort of 10 packs of Kool-Aid for $2. And I remember sort of like, going shopping and sort of trying to remember what those experiences was about. But then like, I think about sort of like what sugar is as an addiction. And then, it's called aid mask because like in some way it's like this sort of like sugar aid, also diabetic, and then sort of the African mask. And then like, how do we push and pull the distance between sort of, again, where do we come from African mask to like this now Kool-Aid thing? So again, like these are just more questions. I think the work in some way, there's many answers, but again, it's not just my experience. It's an experience of a cultural sort of like thing. So for me, like, this is just my voice of saying, okay, this is what I've got from this experience. But I also think that I come from a time that I've been very lucky to not have the same experiences as people before. So I think that that's why the work to me is sort of like this pivotal pausing and then sort of like explanation to my son about where we're going. And then this is good hair. Just thinking about sort of like, the barbershop and all those sort of moments. And again, sort of like this brush in this photograph is a brush I've had since I was about 13. And I still have it, even though I don't really have any hair. But, I still have this brush as a... Was this
your wave brush?
Exactly. The dash, the wave cap, all that.
I see that brush pattern on the side there. I kind of see how you was getting it in. It's a little darker on the head.
It's like you have had a very respectful outside fade or wave action going on.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so like again, like I'm bringing in these things that may or may not have been there in the beginning. But again, like this brush has told the story, at least for me. And then this mask, again, I found it in a prop house, and I'm like, how do I then mix these two stories together? And obviously for me, it's about experience, right? Like the experience I've had up until having a kid, and then the kid sort of really making it a pressure point to really explain these experiences.
You got a lot of shared experience here too. I mean,
totally.
I'm triggered by the brush, but I also had to go back to the Kool-Aid. I'm glad you told us that was Kool-Aid, because it really changes the narrative around that piece. To me, it has so many extra layers. I mean, I'm even thinking of, why there was a market in and around sugar connected to the transatlantic slave trade, and how it ends up being our physical problem you know, with diabetes and the like. I mean, that one really just kind of hit a note for me. But I'm gonna let you go on, man. I'm digging it.
No, thank you. We'll keep going. But this is squash and watermelon. I just remember as a kid, I mean, like I've never seen anyone cook squash as many ways as my grandmother. And I was like, as a staple, it was always around. And I'm just like, again, the meaning of food. And then how do we elevate this? And to me, you speak about excellence, Sean. We'll get further into that later after all this. But for me, like, this is again like making squash elevated. And like to me, it's an ode to my grandmother. Like, hey, I still remember. You know what I mean? Like I still remember the taste of all these things. Again, the memories. And this is a very shared thing. So now this is more Kool-Aid. So I thought about this again more and more. And I was thinking about like when I was a kid growing up, thinking about my mom working sort of 3 jobs. What the hell did we have to take us away from where we were from? And it wasn't just movies, but for me, I was like, for 24 cents, and a pack of Kool-Aid is now 24 cents in Walmart, because I just checked. And I was like, for 24 cents, how do I go to space, right? So like recently I made this work, and I'm like, how do I make the galaxy through Kool-Aid? Because I think, again, we've come from, again, the slave trade from sugarcane to now the Kool-Aid. So I'm like, how do I take it even further? But just for 50 cents, or like, it's 4 or 5 colors there, maybe $1.25, but you know what I mean? But for me, it's about how do I push this narrative even deeper, as a shared experience? Because I think, again, I don't own these experiences. They are a group, they are a shared thing that we all may have or have had. But I think that I want to, again, push this a little bit further.
If I may, just for a second, that image as well could easily be something sent back from one of these space telescopes from NASA, and it makes me think of that Carl Sagan his saying, "We are all made of star stuff." Like even Kool-Aid is made of star stuff, And
yes.
it just, man, I'm like,
all right. And so these are like my cutouts. So cutouts for me are a part of the work that is so hard for me to sort of make emotionally, because Sean, you're a Libra, I'm a Libra, but I'm also a very sensitive Libra. So like, so the cutouts are really a way for me to like really dive into some emotional things that I probably couldn't make it to life out of yet. So like this is called the gold grill, because like coming up I'm like I missed out on the gold grill phase. I just didn't have it, and I may have to get one now just to go on set and see what happens. So that's why I made this piece as an ode to that.
That's the reoccurring theme in these talks that came up last week.
I'm sorry, say it again, Janice?
No, just saying there's still time. Johnny Dang is still in business. There's still time.
There's still time. And then this is Cotton Bush again, just thinking about sort of how does it feel if it was like an overgrown sort of like world of this cotton and the history that it may bring. And I think that, at least for me, there is this tidal wave of sort of meaning that that it has sort of like created. And again, sort of more the cutout in the American flag is sort of like I started making sort of a 50 flags sort of series, and this is called Overboard. And obviously, like I began to think about sort of like, what about the bodies that didn't make it, from those ships? I mean, like, but what if they were set free and then dropped in the water? To me, and these hands and a broken finger, because again, like in order to get from that situation, I'm pretty sure it was very traumatic, right? Physically and mentally. But again, like it still lingers with our flag, this troubled sort of history. And this is just an ode to that. And then now this is again more Kool-Aid. Again, like how do I keep pushing this point of view that takes you away from?
Yes, the Kool-Aid is just amazing.
Again, I want these to feel like you're from a satellite looking down into Earth or whatever it is. And this is sort of like, the cotton flower, but used from sort of like machine-made objects. And I'm not going to speed through because I want to get through the commercial work because I think we have limited time. And then this is sort of like the Confederate sort of flag, but I call it Confederate cotton because again, they keep saying they want to go back to the good old days, and I'm like, what days are those? And who are they good for? And that's why this piece came about. And I'm like, make it great again. Make what great again? Let's be specific about this and for whom. So that's what this piece is about.
That signature work, man. I keep seeing that a lot of places. I was impressed before I even knew who it was. I was like, yeah, this is good. Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then so this particular frame in African mask is like the bald eagle, right? Like we think about American chivalry with the bald eagle, and then again, what has it done to the mask? What has it done to the African diaspora, the African people, or African American people? You know what I mean? Like, or the other. Because I think we have to, as African Americans, we also have had to sort of like, pay the price for many others that come in, and I think that should be said as well. That's what this piece is about. Now, again, so every time I do a presentation, I'm like, I gotta show how I pay the bills because it's also very important. And so I'm gonna just, fly through, and you guys just cut me off whenever it's time for me to, get going. But this is a recent thing with El Decor and Sheila Bridges. Again, it's just showing everyone that, like, I don't just make fine artwork. I had to do both to bridge my own sort of sanity in some way. Like, I just have to get ideas out. But the commercial work for me, like, I make work in and around home just because as a kid, I remember sort of my mom working 3 jobs and, like, thinking about what the idea of home is, or the perfect home. And I think my commercial work, the very identity is about, like, how do I seek out what the perfect home is through my day job in some way. And I mean, like, it's actually very weighted for me personally because I'm always just thinking about, like, what price did my mom have to pay to get me here, right? And I'm almost 40, and I'm like, shit, my whole life is still dedicated to that. And then now my own sort of bridge is how do I dedicate it to my own kid or kids, So, and then this is sort of, I just made this for Bloomberg recently. And it's $15,000 earrings. And, like, it was the first time armed guard came to my studio with some jewelry. And I was like, interesting. And I was like, just the pretense around, like, armed security guard coming in to my studio. Again, I didn't think this has ever happened, but I'm like, my studio, I was like, how do I make this ode? And this hair, is sort of an ode to my mom because I spent tons of time in a hairdresser with my mom. So I was like, I can't get my mom these earrings yet, but you know what? This is the ode to her before I get them. You know what I mean? So, and it's not about material things, but what it is about the very identity about sort of like what luxury is to someone like me,
Beautiful, for that coded homage. Like, I dig that.
Thank you. And this is just more, again, like, I get to shoot really amazing places. I've been very lucky with how I've been trained over the years to just do this work with many, many people. And Sean, we talk about sort of like mentors. I've had great mentors throughout my lifetime, and I got to pass it on starting yesterday. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So, so this is just more work. This is a dollhouse for women's health. And I'm only showing the text because I want people to know that it's been seen somewhere. And then this is just more work. I don't know how much time I have left. Can someone time check me, please?
You got a minute. I'll give you.
All right, cool. Okay, got it. Because I mean, like, Sean, also, if you want to chat about things separately, I mean, this is Beth Ann Hartenson. She was the first African-American woman to walk on runway. And I'm like, man, like, having a chance to photograph her in her home, I was like, this is an absolute honor,
That's
and just thank you. And I mean, like, just chatting with her, man, I was like, dude, like, again just understand.
Again, subject is one thing, but boy, you kill this composition like nobody's business. I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
Like, everything comes through. Like, every piece in this picture is well lived and in its own right, but it all sort of orbits around the gravitational pull of her. Like, it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, the historical narrative, her regalness, like, it's really all there.
It's beautiful stuff, man.
Thank you. And again, just for anyone who's listening who is trying to do this, is like, man, you gotta just keep working. I mean, luckily enough for me, I never stopped working. I mean, it's the engine, right? You just keep going, see what happens.
Well, yeah, we're going to get into a lot of this shared discussion with everyone. I think one of the joys of this is letting everyone hear us talk pretty freely and openly about how we got here. We all have these unique trajectories that start out with these beautiful parents of ours in one way or another, and they, their desires for what we're doing, to be great, to be excellent, and how we're expressing their dream is a thing. And I think that's one of the things about being a Black creator stands out. And even in the spaces that we don't necessarily always hold, I commend you tremendously for being this photographer, for being a photographer who is shooting homes, interiors, subjects that are just, truly remarkable. And I will tell you one thing, I have it on good authority that white people also like chicken and watermelon. Fried
yes,
chicken.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
I have it on authority. So some of these photos are making some mouth water. Trust me. There's the shared experience of understanding how good that food is. We just have to break the walls down, and then we can get this whole conversation going between all of us.
Okay. Well, look, I mean, it is good for everyone. Yes, it is. Agreed.
Amen to that.
I'm not.
These are gorgeous.
Thanks, man. And should I stop sharing now, or?
Yeah, we're gonna mosey along to the next person in line.
All right, let's do it. All right.
All right. Well, I'm gonna start off by saying this young man. I happened to meet him many moons ago here in Philadelphia. We are very, very close in proximity, and even closer in spirit. He started out as a street photographer just as much as I was. He has a unique view of what the world is like. It's cinematographic, it's documentarian, there's a new sort of feel to what he's doing, and I'm proud to present Terrell Halsey to you all to see some of his amazing work and to showcase our hometown. So this is where the Philly part comes out. Our hometown right now. So you get to see that through my brother's eyes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, LACP, for having me. And thank you, Sean. Sean has been a big influence in my art journey, obviously, me being in Philadelphia and pursuing photography as an artist and a way of expression. And, we met, I want to say like 5 years ago or so.
5 years ago.
I was just coming to this dude's shows. And one day he just told me to call him. And I was like, why is he telling me to call him? He's not going to pick up the phone. And I actually called him, and he talked to me for about a half hour just about art and life. And ever since then, we've been connected, and he's been looking out for me. So I definitely appreciate you. And
thank you for your presence in my life, brother.
Yes. So I'm excited to share a project that I've been working on for the last, I want to say, 4 years now. It's actually kind of a representation of my journey into this art world. Sean is actually one of the first people who told me, you need to get away from individual images. Right now, Instagram and social media is very heavy. You go out, you shoot, and you put up an image, and that image stands for something. But, what do we want to say collectively? What do we want to present? Like Frank was saying, how am I going to explain myself, my identity to my son, or, my experience? So yeah, let me start sharing my screen. Let's see. And I'm going to keep talking for a bit. I don't want to talk when I have the images up because I kind of want people to take them in for themselves. Let's see there. All right. So yeah, so Philly is home to me now. I've had several homes. My family is from New Jersey, and I grew up in the Pocono area, and I came out to Philly. I went to Temple University to study film and media arts, something that me and Sean were talking about. Well, we're both Temple alum, but he's also saying that my work has a cinematic feel to me, which is to him, which is a big compliment because that film and media arts presence shines through the work. I started off as a video editor. I wanted to edit videos. But when I bought my first camera, that all changed. But getting back to the point, I wanted to start creating work that meant something cohesively. I go to the city a lot and I shoot street photography. I just take it all in. It's my way of expressing. It's my way of understanding the world. It's my way of even understanding like my relation to the world. So I started to think about, really look through my work and see what type of things am I saying? What am I touching on? Why am I doing this? You know, I'm obviously African-American male, shooting street photography in the city, and I'm capturing, you know, Black and brown people. I'm telling the stories of Black and brown people, if not like literally, but figuratively. We can make expressions from these subjects and kind of think about what they might be saying, you know, physically, emotionally, spiritually. So the project that I came up with is, let's go to the next one. Oops, we skipped one, let me go back. So the project that I've been working on for the last couple of years is called Fragments Beyond the Veil. I've been really interested in, you know, 2020 has been a great year as far as things erupting and allowing us to really confront these things that have been plaguing, you know, the country and individuals for years, since the beginning of America. I feel like this year is just exposing all the weaknesses and all the kind of evils and ills. But at the very minimal, at the very least, my project is, how do we being people of the African diaspora exist and occupy space within a social structure that systematically and psychologically inhibits us? So when you start to think about the inception of America and how it was never made to incorporate, you know, African people, you know, Black and brown people, we came, they exploited us, they used us as slaves, you know, to boost their economy and made money and made, you know, made the country on our backs. But what happens after that? What happens after slavery? What happens, you know, after segregation? And there's, you know, redlining and, you know, racist property laws that have brought us to be segregated still. And that's what I was very interested in. Me going to the city and capturing Black and brown people, taking up this space. Who is this space supposed to be for? Center City. You know, it's a city where all the money is concentrated. And I think of all the major cities, you know, like New York, LA, Philly, or think of, you know, DC. You know, who built these cities? You know, slaves built, you know, these cities. Slaves built some of these cities. And if they didn't build it, they were exploited on labor to help it become wealthy. So I'm interested in how we are now, you know, occupying space.
Let me see some of these pictures.
Yeah. Sorry, I know I'm talking. All right. So yeah, I'm not gonna say too much about these images. I kind of like people to take it in and you know, experience them. I don't want to tell you how to think. I probably should have included titles, but.
How much time do you spend when you're out on doing street work? How much time do you spend connecting with subjects? Or do you find it a lot easier to get the candid shot to bring your vision to life?
Right. Good question. So majority of my work is candid. My journey into street photography has been studying, you know, just like the Henry Cartier-Bressons, Robert Frank. Sean put me on to Roy DeCarava, which was one of the best things that happened to me. But yeah, majority of my work is candid. I try to leave things as they were, you know, undisrupted, to show these subjects how they were at that point in time and the story that it might convey. There's a couple in here that I did talk to a little bit, but majority of my work is candid.
Mm-hmm. What's the boundary of downtown to you? Because that's a very good question. As downtown has become sort of a porous boundary, you know, it's more residential now. Like, where do you consider the sort of beginning and end? And have you seen it? Have you seen it change in that way? Have you seen the boundary become a little bit more porous with your work?
That's a great question. For me, let's see. Usually around, obviously, I don't really shoot in Rittenhouse. I feel like a lot of it is, I feel like a lot of it is the same.
You're gonna have to tell everybody what Rittenhouse is all about.
I usually shoot from about 15th and Chestnut, up to about 18th.
Okay.
But I also go down to like 7th, around Jewelers Row.
Okay.
I think once you go up, you know, past, I want to say, you know, like 30th and Chestnut, you know, you can see things start to directly change.
Right.
Which is definitely interesting, you know, for me thinking about, you know, the history of where, you know, Black and brown people have been placed or, you know,
and moved around in this city.
Right, yeah. What space was for who? But yeah, there's been a lot of changes within the last 5 years. I mean, you know, parks have changed. They added a whole fashion district. Yeah, I'll speak a little bit about this image.
Yeah, this one's powerful. What's happening here?
These guys here are street performers, but I managed to catch them in a frame of a second where there was just a pause. And in this pause, we have these kids, you know, these white kids inside the store who were looking outside, you know, at these two young brothers. And they're looking at each other through the glass, which gets very metaphorical. You know, it's like two different worlds. You know, they're examining each other. There's a lot of little details inside also. You know, there's clothes inside. There's things for sale. On the outside, we have, you know, this kid's hand is bruised. You know, they're doing work on the street. They're performing. But I think this picture kind of, you know, transcends that. We just have a moment where these kids are from different worlds looking at each other.
Yeah. How space is occupied is a very interesting thing here. You know, who is being the spectacle is a really kind of interesting question this one raises for me. And, and the fact that you have this perspective is pretty unique.
Thank you.
Yeah. Janice, I think you might have a pair of those, don't you?
If I don't, I definitely plan to get some soon.
Well, you know you can find them in Philly, so I might have to go looking for you.
Look, I know this is your piece, but I'll just say, like I say it often when I see images like this, like I love us. Like I love that she walked outside and that was it. That's the thing. You know, I love us for that. You know. So
she was ready.
It gives me juice when I see those pictures, man.
She was ready for the day.
Yeah.
Can't tell her nothing.
Right?
Yeah. No, I'm glad. Like, I love the different perspectives. For me, when I took it, I didn't know what these glasses were or represented. So for like 2 weeks, I've just seen people rocking these glasses. Me just walking around as a street photographer and artist, I just saw, you know, Black woman glasses with white hands covering her eyes. And I just had to snap it and try to take a second and think about what that meant. The glasses also came with like a hair piece on it. I think it was like purple and blue hair. No, so you can't tell now. But yeah, it definitely made for a think piece for me.
This is Reading Terminal. I could tell by those big bricks right there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. In this photo, I was just trying to capture the relationship, but also the generations.
Yeah.
You know, in this picture, you know, it seemed as though we have this man here. You know, we have either a grandmother figure, you know, maybe a mother figure, but we also have his kid in his hand. And I feel like it's also important to show, you know, black men, you know, black men who appear strong, you know, holding and taking care of their kids, taking care of their loved ones.
Yeah, that tenderness is important.
Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, we can't skip this one. This one really stood out to me. This is inside of the rotunda at City Hall, and man, what a shot! Like, when did you take this? Is what I need to know. When did this happen?
Yeah, this was 2 years ago, I want to say, during the summer. And I think one of the thrills of street photography for me is that you just never know. You never know what you're going to get. Like, this is a moment that I could never go out and just capture this again. It's one of those things where it's kind of everything lined up. This kid was sitting inside here, and I was able to capture it candidly. I tried to leave it undisturbed and just capture him how he was. And of course, then the phrase on, you know, there must come a change brings, like, you know, literal symbolism to the picture.
And that's the semiotic tool at work right there. That is amazing. Yeah. What is that structure? Like, what is he sitting in?
It's the the Octavius.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that they put up.
That's the statue.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know it had a hollow seat in it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's about
Octavius. It's the Octavius Cotto Memorial.
Yes.
For slain revolutionary era civil rights leader Octavius Cotto. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. That's even more significant now.
Yeah. For sure. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, man, let me, if I may, I want to get you through a few more pictures because I definitely want to leave some time for Janice and some questions. Okay. If you, yeah,
speed through these last couple ones.
Yeah, don't speed too quick. I don't want people to miss out. Now this, I'm gonna need this in my house, okay? Like, y'all gonna have me going broke between you and Frank tonight. I don't even want to see what Janice gonna pull up. I'm gonna be broke by the end of this thing. Yeah, this is beautiful. Where did you get this, bro?
Thank you. This is right in City Hall, and I feel like this picture is important to me for many reasons. I think one of the very cliche pictures that you see in Philly and City Hall is, you know, the silhouette through the alleyway. Sean, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, everybody does that.
Everybody thinks that picture is hot. So for me, this was a completely different, more intimate, you know, emotional capture in City Hall, and also just capturing. To me, I named it a City Hall prayer. You know, it was just a lady sitting there, and you know, in my mind, I'm always thinking about what people are going through. What are they going through? Where do they come from? What's their day like? But I think it captures kind of like the spirituality and the emotional aspect of the subject. So, but then also,
I think it captures you mostly. I think this is truly this is a mirror unto you, because I know you well, and you're a very spiritual and very centered brother around your belief in God, and this is really almost a portrait of your true self. In that space too, it's hard to get a good shot because you have so many people moving around, but the light is amazing in City Hall, and the fact that you were able to get it doesn't look like City Hall.
Yeah,
you know, and that you're able to give something of yourself in such a tremendous photo is really just a beautiful statement. I love this piece.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And that's
time with me.
Thank you.
Time with
Yeah. Thank you. That's a huge compliment for me, because I definitely, it's part of my journey, you know, for somebody to be able to see me in this image. I also see myself, a piece of myself in these images, and I hope that these images are also, you know, pieces to the larger, you know, society as well.
Amen to that.
Oops. All right. This image here, using the, you know, kind of text and imagery on her shirt, but also you see the black model on the window here, you know, dark skin. We also have the subject who was dark skin, you know, short hair. So I think for me, I was thinking it was a nice commentary on, you know, what is beauty? I think, you know, we're kind of brainwashed into thinking that beauty is one thing. You know, beauty's white, blonde, blue eyes. So for me to see this was a beautiful thing for me, you know, and for her.
Mm-hmm. It is. Well, brother, I'm going to wrap up on this note here. And then you got to hit us with the fountain shot, right? You're like, but wait, there's more.
That's the last one. That's the last one, though.
All right. Well, listen, this is a beautiful statement of work. You know, I know one thing for sure. I know your wife is very proud of you. I've watched you grow as a young photographer into this. You know, you're starting to take those reins nicely in this city, brother. So thank you so much for sharing that work. You know, And now I have to introduce someone from the future. Someone who has changed the trajectory of all life as we've known it. Someone who is just a badass all around. It's Janice Bond.
I was like, who is he talking about?
I'm talking to the futurist herself. Hello, Miss Bond. How are you?
I'm doing well. I really am. I don't know if anyone else gets into this space, but when I start seeing images, I love documentary style photography because I love stories. I love oral history. I'm obsessed with all of it. So I'm seeing these images and I'm immediately like, oh yeah, I'll have to go to the courthouse. You know, you know, like there's so many different things, like just that energy, that feeling, that vibration, you know, it all, it permeates, you know, in a really good way.
Well, I gotta say, why did I introduce her in this way? Well, she is the future because they're little bits and pieces of what we do as business people in the art business, being artists, being talented mentor to other artists as well. Janice is all of those things. Janice is literally a beacon in our world and somebody that I truly respect for her hustle, her grind, her talent, her intellectual, everything you can imagine, like all the way down. I've been dying to talk to Janice for quite some time because she has such a huge sway in our world. So I'm pleased to present Janice Bond. So let's get right to it.
Thank you. Well, I'll start with a couple of things. So one is my work. I wasn't sure if I would ever share my work as a photographer, as a professional, not because I didn't think it was important, but because there was a time where I felt like it was so important and so sacred. I wasn't sure how I wanted to share it with the world in a way that would truly honor my co-creators, which is the name that I give my subjects. A long time ago, for me, a long time ago, so much has happened even this year. This year feels like 10 years ago. But but some time ago, back in 2015, there was a time where I started shooting outside of just documentary style for my own archive, and started shooting people. And I realized, particularly with people and shooting, just even experimenting in nudes, there was a different type of comfort. There was this whole idea that, like, a time that would usually be so uncomfortable and have so many different preconceived notions of how it should happen and so forth and so on, I didn't feel that dis-ease. And for whatever reason, the people who shot with me didn't feel that dis-ease either. And I was like, well, there's something to this, you know, and the conversations continued. And I went through a lot of life changes, you know, on my own during that time. Got in a very serious car accident on the way to an airport, was actually moving out of the country. So imagine what you would have in a car if you're moving out of the country and going to the airport. So hard drives, backups, cameras, like the whole thing. And had my first solo show that was going to debut in like 2 weeks. I mean, not 2 weeks, 2 months. And so basically lost everything there. And I give you this story because beyond the binary, which I'm going to share with you now, the iteration that made its debut to the world is not the one that was originally going to be made available. So that's something really I want everyone to note, because out of that, I believe that what I did offer to the world was really the best thing possible, and things just kind of like went from there. So let me see if I could share my screen now. Let's see. Am I sharing?
Yep, I see it.
It's always good for a good share. So Beyond the Binary, again, started a very different way. How did it start differently? It was originally 1 to 2 subjects, and it was a series of photographic news that were specifically talking about the connection between the female body and nature. And to start, it's like the whole idea that, you know, with nature, you know, when there's a constellation or anything, a new planet, a blade of grass, there's so much investment, and there's so much inquiry and intrigue and study that goes into understanding these depths and breadths of the universe, when all of that naturally exists within women. You know, it's an undeniable fact, right? We literally 3D print human beings, you know, so you know,
Exactly.
I've done it twice. So it's one of those things where it's like that complexity and that beauty is something that I believe that should also be studied. And, you know, complicating someone is not necessarily a bad idea. When you complicate someone, you give them dimension. When you complicate a subject, you give it dimension. And dimension is always beautiful when you're talking about art. And what is a work of art if a woman is not, right? Yet for some reason, and many reasons, when a woman is seen as complex, she's met with a lot of different feelings. You know, it's a threat. You know, it's confusing. It's troublesome. And that also translates even further and deeper when you're talking about Black women. You know, up until a couple of years ago, I can remember distinctively, and I have a teenager and a first grader. And so it's very interesting watching like all of our life experiences as Black women in this world at different points, and how people at different points bearing witness to the response of society, technology, and everything to us at these different points in your life. One thing that people don't tell you when you have children is that you will experience each portion of their life again as if it was your life as well, because you'll need to in order to translate it for them, whether it's talking, walking, puberty, high school, you know, circle time in kindergarten, and somebody doesn't want to play, You know, someone tells you have poodle hair, which happened to my eldest in second grade. You know, like you have to deal with all of those things. And so I started to look at, you know, once I lost everything, but didn't lose the idea and didn't lose the connection to love and loving, there was something that triggered in me when I decided to continue with the shoot, which was, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to move on. And also, I want to make sure that all of my co-creators are feeling that reverence and love and complication that I need for myself. But I didn't really feel like, honestly, I didn't feel like having that conversation about myself just yet. And I was really more willing and wanted to have the conversation with my co-creators. And so I opened my studio.
Janice, can I stop you for 1 second?
Sure.
I want to ask, I think are you pushing through your slideshow right now?
I am.
Because
Oh,
okay, so we're actually, I just got a little note. You may need to share the screen, the presentation screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we're seeing the original photo album. Could you reshare the screen that was being shown as the one that you're seeing? So when you go back to it and share screen again.
Okay.
When you share screen again, you'll see there we go. That's what we were missing.
Okay.
So going back to the beginning and just yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
There we go.
Great.
Thank
you for that note. See, technology, all that good stuff. So
right on.
So I started to shoot, and I really wanted to really love on some people through the lens. You know, it was something that I really felt that was necessary. And it was interesting because it was also a lot of healing that was happening. You know, I spent some time documenting in Baltimore during Freddie Gray. I spent some time documenting in just various cities for my own personal archive related to a lot of the unrest that was happening back in 2015. And it was really taking an emotional toll on me because, you know, there just wasn't a lot of conversations or any conversation truly, you know, as it is now, like how to both, you know, be a Black person in society and be able to be emotionally like intact as you were getting. I remember the week that, you know, I really was kind of falling apart at my desk, you know, there were 3 police murders in 1 week. And, you know, I was like, how am I supposed to sit at my desk and send an email or make a deadline? Like, I literally need to call in Black. And I left that afternoon to Baltimore. And because I was like, I don't care what happens, but I know I need to be with my people because these people aren't apart from me. I just need to be on the ground and see what's happening because I need to check on my folks. And my folks are everybody that looks like me. And so going back to this was a big part of just loving on all of us, loving on women, and also really just not getting caught up in my negative feelings of like some photographers, some women who've been documenting other women or men who have been documenting women in this whole like body positivity movement that at the time was being led through the lens of men, which to me I believe is a bit challenging, especially at that time, because the narrative at the time was your flaws are beautiful. Don't mind your flaws. Your flaws are awesome. I was like, well, is anyone else catching this backhanded compliment or is it just me? So anyway, I'm like, how about they're not flaws at all? How about we just, you know, document this space and time, and everyone that comes into my studio, there's this assumption that they are inherently, internally and externally beautiful, even if it's just the understanding of their complexity as a human being. And that's where we started with every single shoot. And so I show a lot of images from my first reshooting of my project that lasted 16 days. I was doing about 7 shoots a day. And it was just like sun up to sundown, back to back. And all I thought about were my co-creators. All I thought about was the constant propulsion of, you know, loving and honest and energy and release into the world. And so you end up with images like these, you know, weight lifted, you know, this particular co-creator it's interesting, like even how the co-creators came in. So like some people would hear that I was shooting in the studio, basically living in the gallery where I was showing this work for 2 weeks. And they were like, you know, she came with her boyfriend, who was a good friend of mine at the time, and was like, I really just feel like I need to get this out. I feel like I need to shoot with you. And all of these, you know, women, these are people who had never shot, you know, professionally before, particularly nude, at least 95% of them. And there was just so much trust there, you know. And mind you, there are some photos, a great deal of the photos I'm taking with my professional camera, but also there are many of them that I'm taking with my camera phone on purpose. And so here I am taking hundreds of images with a phone that I'm actually taking calls on, by the way. And part of that was the social practice as well, because it was like, okay, are you going to, you know, no one asked, like, so what are you doing with those images, or where are you going to put them, or how are they going to show up, or, you know, it was really
this
more
is gorgeous.
this
I love this one.
She is a brilliant human, and she is someone I've known for many years. She actually did a silent retreat for like months one time in Paris, like didn't talk for months, and came back and like teaches women who have experienced loss of children due to gun violence in Chicago, meditation and sound therapy. Like these women and all of their different worlds and work are amazing. And the stories that go along with Beyond the Binary is a bigger part of this even than just the image. So like this woman here, she wanted to talk to me about the fact of, you know, how curvaceous she was, and also being brown skinned, and how she was consistently sexualized because of her curves and her color. And she constantly, even growing up, wondered if she didn't have one or the other, how differently people would respond to her, especially in leadership positions. And so that became, I mean, she was like, this is literally hourglass shape. And it was so fascinating to me because, you know, I didn't realize until we were taking these images how much of herself she constantly covered up in layers, so that people wouldn't see how her body looked every day. And so there was just a lot of like, you know, tears and humor and, you know, just these really moments of like, again, humor, because you can't not laugh, you know, and unless you just, again, you know, slightly dead inside. If someone is jumping up and down completely nude and you have a good rapport, someone's gonna laugh, you know. And that's a big part of, you know, again, that whole space where the photos are just a byproduct of the social practice. So this particular co-creator, as I'm getting closer to the end and I wanted to share a few more notes, she's yogi, very cool, you know, extremely slim. But one of the things that she told me that really stuck out was that, you know, she was one of those very, very slim women that people constantly are always telling her, like, you're so lucky, you're so slim, you're so lucky, you're so slim, you're so lucky, you're so slim. She has extremely high metabolism. And I remember her telling me one day, you know, she's a lot older than she looks. Like she's, you know, probably 40 something now, but I promise you, looks like she's in her early 20s. And people are constantly saying strange things to her. Even older women would tell her like, well, how are you going to carry a baby, you know, if you're that thin, you know, right? And what a lot of people don't know is that she had been having some issues. It wasn't for the lack of trying. And so it was just really interesting to hear her talk about that, a person that I'd been around for years but didn't know too much about, to talk a bit about, you know, those experiences. And a lot of people who came to shoot with me at the beginning of Beyond the Binary were actually friends, and then people I'd never met a day in my life before they walked in the studio. And the work just continued. And so the work continued as a reveal. The art is a social practice. Love is a social practice. The photos just being documentation and a byproduct of that. It's part of what, you know, keeps me sane, keeps me connected. And it really led to a project that I'm not going to show today for the sake of time, but pretty soon whenever we can, is I Still Love Him, which is the brother project, pun intended, that focuses specifically, although Beyond the Binary is all women, all ages. I've shot from the ages of 19 to 84, you know, and it's for all self-identified women. But I Still Love Him is only Black men, unapologetically so, and will always be that way. And it was so powerful when I started shooting. I started shooting these at the same time. And after my fourth or fifth session for I Still Love Him, I stopped shooting for a year and a half because there was so much to process in that time. There was so many things, stories I had to sit with, so much to love. And I had to really think again about, like, can I do this investment, this space of vulnerability, this space of trust, justice by sharing it with the world, or is it something that just needs to exist? And it needs to exist between, you know, myself and the men who co-created these moments. So I've actually recently started shooting it again. And Beyond the Binary, the first book, you know, that'll be finished this year, and we'll see.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You know, see where we land with I Still Love Him. But the beautiful part is that, you know, that one's shooting again, and I feel like it's been a blessing and amazing to be, you know, I always say Houston raised me, Chicago made me, you know, and now I'm here, you know, in Houston, and kind of like going between both. When it comes, my main studio is still in Chicago. But ultimately, you know, again, these photos, they're more than portraits, they're more than bodies, they're more than people. There are agreements between two energies and spirits that have allowed for form to take shape for you to experience as well. You all are witnessing agreements. And that's how I treat those images. That's how I treat my relationships with my co-creators. And I just feel really lucky and blessed to have both of these projects running until I put down a camera, whenever that is.
Never. You know, Janice, never. Janice, I got to tell you, you know, when I look at that body of work, it brings to mind Deb Willis's The Black Female Body, Photographic History.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, to me, a perfect bookend companion to our time. You know, from one place in one space of having no control or agency in the photographic process, to the creator and her partners creating work about the body and the emotions that come with it. It is a long road traveled between those two texts, but I feel like they're equally as important for people to understand the who, the what, and the why of black womanhood. And it stands like up to that level of excellence. And Frank, I know you like when I say excellence. Frank and I were thinking about excellence.
I appreciate you so much. I will tell you this, because you all talked so much about mentors. I will say proudly, I have several. And one of which, who I just spoke with a few days ago, is Ming Smith.
Oh,
and
Ming,
she is a beacon to me. And, you know, I've frequently, you know, talked to her about, you know, my work and even my decision. I talked with her about motherhood. I talked to her about so many different things. And there's an intimacy of her work that, you know, although mine focus on like portraits, there's an understanding that I've learned from her and people like Dawood Bey, you know, who I used to be, you know, basically neighbors with. And, you know, there are several people that I've been really blessed with, but like definitely, like I said, Ming, who I cherish their intention behind the lens, and only hope that I continue to live up to that in my work.
Now that you said that you've been, you know, in this experience with Ming, it comes across, now that you said, I'm like, you know, I see how that influences really sort of shape some of your language, your vernacular of the body. It's really beautiful. And I mean, you know, to be a fly on the wall between you and Ming, I'm wondering one day, can we get that going on? Can we get a conversation between you and Ming for LACP? I'm just going to throw it out there. I think the world needs to hear that conversation happen, because I think there's a lot of people that could benefit from just listening to the two of you talk. It would probably be a remarkable conversation.
She's awesome. That's all I'll
Yeah.
say. She's an awesome woman.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm going to open this up to thank all three of you for amazing presentations and literally enriching us with everything that you've presented us tonight. I'm just excited to even know you all and just to be in your presence tonight. I want to open it up for questions from anyone here. If you've got questions, please, this is the time. And you can unmute and go ahead and ask if we don't have questions in the, let's see. Oh, we have something in the chat here. This one is to you, Janice.
Okay. Short version, yes, I've done self-portraits. Interestingly enough, it wasn't until after my 42nd subject that I finally shot myself, something I had been avoiding for a long time. But I did a residency at the Mark Rothko Art Center in Daugavpils, Latvia. And it was so quiet there, you could literally hear, I think, like time passing. So, I mean, I lived in a fortress that was converted into an art museum. So if that gives you any sense of where I was, it was pretty phenomenal. I shot myself. I cried halfway through. I continued shooting. I was like, what the hell is going on? You know, like, it's like, am I going crazy? You know, but really it was like literally this cathartic, you know, moment, you know, when you turn the lens on yourself. I really underestimated how impactful that would be for my life. I haven't shot myself since, actually. I intend to do so very soon. But yeah, it's been years.
Would you put any of that work in the work that you've presented to us tonight?
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
The work that you showed us tonight, and I'm referring to then the self-portraits you made. Would you mix any of them? Are you in any of those shots?
Oh, no, I'm not in any of those shots, but I'll tell you this. So the Mark Rothko Art Center, the 4 pieces that they have in their permanent collection are collages of me nude, mixed with trees and other landscapes from the area. So that's one. And then I've shown images of myself probably one other time. I just haven't. To me, it's almost like having online profiles, you know, while I probably would never be good at online dating, because I'm not a person that's going to share a bunch of information about myself in a space that I don't like authorize. You know, the most vulnerable I get sometimes is really what's available on my website, or really in conversations like this. So I'll do it, but, you know, the focus of Beyond the Binary is not really me. I'm just I'm a vehicle. And I'm cool with that. As far as the meaning of the title, Beyond the Binary, yes, I do understand these days Beyond the Binary would suggest other than male, female. But the co-creators are all self-identified women. So I've shot people before. A few of them were not in the short presentation that I gave, that actually that are not genetically women, but identify as women, you know. So there's that meaning, but ultimately it's just really beyond the binaries of the expectation of, you know, what woman is and how we interact with each other or the self based on society. So both apply.
Oh. Anyone else? Just speak on up. Let's have a little conversation here. You don't have to type it in.
No, but it's it's interesting just thinking about sort of like how, if we're speaking about this language of sort of us and how it all seems to be more complex. I keep thinking of, Janice, you speak about the complexity of sort of women, and then how you actually 3D print a human. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, just to think about that as a...
I told you she's from the future.
Yeah, I mean, or as an idea. I've been sitting with that. I wrote it down. I'm just like, man, like, think about the complexity of just that thought alone, the 3D printed thing. I mean, I don't think NASA could even like get to that sort of complexity, right? Like, which I think why it's so feared, right? Like, I think is why it's so feared amongst sort of like the idea of that complexity not being touched. Well, it can't be touched.
Yeah.
So I think, thank you for sharing the work, because I mean, that is an important thing to think about. At least for me, it is.
Thank you. No, I mean, think about it. Us, this Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid tonight has been
fun because
it's a thing.
Because it was a vehicle. It was like, I don't even know what we're replicating here. It's purple, it's red, it's green, it's blue. It's blue raspberry. Whatever we're gonna make tonight is gonna be magical, and it's 50 cents, 25, 50 cents is gonna take you somewhere. So I remember, seeing guys in middle school and high school, like that wave brush was crucial. It was critical. Mm-hmm. This is critical business. I'm from the South, so, this is a part of identity. And so then I go back to, again, the photo of the woman with the glasses, I go to your collages, Sean, like I love us. I bet on us all day, every day. And so, there is a lot that won't be understood. The unfortunate part is that in this society, the one that we're living in today and has been for some time, it's like, in order for us to not be in many ways considered a threat to society, it's like there's a requirement that people have a certain type of understanding that will never happen. You will never understand how awesome that wave brush is if that wasn't a part of your culture. You will never understand how awesome it is to make an abstract, photographic collage, beautiful thing out of freaking red Kool-Aid and purple Kool-Aid. You just won't. And that should be okay. And that should be okay. And that should be okay. In fact, that should be awesome and exciting and something to study. So again, going back to the complexities of women, Black women, especially Black women and nails. I remember living in New Orleans and going to Canal Street, long fingernails and designs and everything else. It's just functional art. It's sculpture at that point, So I feel like if we really just kind of like take these cultural nuances for what they are, again, it's the veil and the lens by which we choose to see these things. These are really just different layers of a cultural human experience that people are coming into focus in a society that has, by large and far, decided to see people, culture, women, even aging one particular way. And for that reason, as a people, as a society, we've lost out on quite a bit. And also, the last thing I'll say is that I tell my children often, I 3D printed you, clean the kitchen. Yeah, that's a line for my children. I 3D printed.
I love it. The one thing I love about what's been presented here and through all these talks is this view into this future archive, and it is all this conversation back and forth through our lives and the lives of our parents and the lives that have populated our culture to make all these things so important. We can, the last talk was, we had a really extensive conversation around gold teeth and the importance of those gold teeth and, the longing to have them once you got to a certain place in life. You feel, some of them felt as though they missed the boat in getting those gold teeth. And now that they can do it, they're acquiring it, and that brush, the brush is a thing, we keep going back to this brush, but the accomplishments wrapped up into creating a wave pattern haircut. And I have to say it that way so people understand what I'm saying. So to have waves and have them spin around your head, that 360 waves, the just beautiful head of hair, the dedication, the amount of work it takes, and the amount of disobedience in certain places that it takes to actually make that achievement work.
The
because
power
you're brushing
of the
all
reveal.
day. Right. Oh, and don't forget the reveal when you pull the wave cap. First of all, let's talk about you're not supposed to be brushing your hair in certain places. You're not supposed to have your wave cap on. But this is our identity in its metamorphosis. We're in a space and place where even our sort of tiny aspects, these sort of microscopic aspects that build to these beautiful moments for our beauty is being policed. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. And the thing is, I love that it's being taken out into the culture and it's changing other cultures. Normalization of these things is a really beautiful thing, but I also love that we hold it so close and it is so meaningful because they're going to have to acknowledge that, this is the root of it all and this is the why. It's a great effort on many people's part to try to do our lives, our culture, our ways. But flattery is nice, but really get to know what Black folks are all about and why we are tickled pink over Kool-Aid and the shared experience of these, small things that we just, we've never been in a room together, but we've been laughing about things that are just, it's our culture. We know it. We joke amongst ourselves, and there's this need to code switch in and out of this conversation in front of you all, because it's us. It's just how we do. But at some point in time, it'll be wonderful for everyone to have that sort of experience to understand the beauty of these switches and the beauty of what we're talking about. We make this stuff for that very reason. We make it for all of the cultures that we come in contact with, but most importantly, we make it for us because our general view of who we are is fleeting sometimes. And we really want to be sure that, we impress upon you that Black people will be here and we're going to be thriving in the here and now, whenever the here and now is taking place. So, oh man, I got a ding for that. Did I get 10 points on that or something?
Oh, thank you all for this. I would just like to continue to reaffirm that it's still time for Gold Grills. We can all still do this. I'm literally getting a fitting this month at Johnny Dang & Co. Because I feel like it's a rite of passage for everyone from Houston, every Black person from Houston. You at least think about it. And, so I'm going to do that. I love it. I love us. I will always bet on them. You gentlemen are absolutely amazing. And not saying that loosely, but really thought-provoking work that's affirming in so many different ways. And I look forward to us continuing the conversation as artists, but also as people.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you both for your insight. Definitely.
Can't wait to see y'all in real life.
Is it going to happen anytime soon? I don't know.
Sooner or later, we'll get to do this in person.
Someday.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up. If anyone has any more questions or anything else they'd like to add, now is the time. Janice is going back to the future. Terrell and I are here in Philadelphia. Frank is going to be making amazing pictures of somebody's $1 million estate and smashing up watermelons and hurting people's feelings who really love watermelons. We will be doing what we do, but we would love to keep this conversation going. Does anyone else have any conversation? I think we have somebody here. Oh no, it's just somebody saying thank you. Thank you, Patrice.
Oh, thank you guys. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to pass it back.
I'm sorry, Sean, I interrupted. Thank you, Sean.
No, go right ahead.
A fabulous moderator, and to all of our amazing artists this evening. It's been an absolute honor to hear about you and your work. Thank you so much. Once again, we have the evaluation link in the chat. We would love your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. So please make sure you sign on that link and give us your feedback. Other than that, this will be happening next week as well. So join us for next week. Say what you want to say. Everyone, have a wonderful evening wherever you are and stay safe.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.